to the February 11th Mayor and City Council meeting. We truly do appreciate the public input and welcome you here in council chambers. The first item we've got is the Pledge of Allegiance, and we've got some lovely young women that are going to lead us in the pledge. If you'll please come forward.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before you sit down, ladies, if you would come back to the podium and tell us your name and also who you're here with and what you do.
I'm Abby Levitt. I'm a junior at Johns Creek High School, and we're here with National Charity Leagues in Roswell and Alpharetta.
Is it? I think it is. It's just bent. Okay.
I'm Lucy Clark. I'm in 10th grade at Johns Creek High School, and I'm also here with National Charity League.
I'm Joanna Fithian. I'm an 11th grader at Johns Creek High School, and I'm also here with National Charity League.
I'm Riley Wallace. I'm an 8th grader at Holcomb Ridge Middle School, and I'm also here with National Charity Leagues.
Thank you, ladies. Let's hear a big round of applause for the ladies. We're going to be reading a proclamation a little bit further down in the agenda, so we will, after the proclamation, ask you to come forward and we'll get our pictures with you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Tizer. Do I have a second? Second by Councilmember Wilsey. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. The next, I don't see it. The next item on the agenda is the recognition of Community Relations Police Officer John Hicks and the new Canine Officer, Alf.
You're probably wondering where my dog is right about now. I'm actually not Officer Hicks. My name is Linnea Rivard, and I'm here to introduce Officer Hicks. However, the dog was just at an event at the Cultural Arts Center and is currently taking care of important dog business at the moment, which will be cleaned up promptly after himself. So he should be coming in here any moment now. Did you want to move on and have me come back up, or did you want me to go ahead and discuss?
I'll go ahead and start the proclamations, and then we'll fit them in when we see them come in.
When nature calls, sorry.
Thank you. The next item, we'll skip over that one, and reading of a proclamation for Heart Health Month. Whereas the National Charity League, NCL, is a national service organization comprised of more than 65,000 mothers and daughters in grades 7 through 12 who serve their communities in 254 chapters in 27 states, and whereas the Roswell Alpharetta chapter of NCL exists in our community with more than 200 mothers and daughters who are committed to the development of leaders and improving our community through service and volunteerism. And whereas NCL works in a national partnership with the American Heart Association in recognition of the impact of heart health in our society, and whereas cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of men and women in the United States, and about 80% of cardiovascular disease may be preventable through lifestyle choices and changes. And whereas the NCL and the American Heart Association have joined together to enhance awareness of heart health to improve and save lives. And whereas February 1st, 2019 was National Wear Red Day in observance of the fact that almost half of all cardiovascular-related deaths are in women, and cardiovascular disease kills about 1 woman in every 80 seconds. And whereas the Roswell Alpharetta chapter has petitioned this Honorable City Council to proclaim February as Heart Health Month to increase awareness of the importance of heart health and the prevention of heart disease in our community in an effort to improve and save lives. And now, therefore, I, Lori Henry, the mayor of the city of Roswell, do hereby proclaim that the Roswell Alpharetta chapter of the National Charity League is hereby commended for its service to our community and dedication to heart health in partnership with the American Heart Association. Be it further resolved that February is hereby proclaimed to be Heart Health Month. And I believe we've got a spokesperson for the group. If you'll come forward to the podium and tell us a little bit about why you're here and what you do.
Miss Mayor and Council, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight on behalf of the Roswell Alpharetta chapter of the National Charity League. My name is Abby Levitt, and I'm a junior at Johns Creek High School and in my 5th year of NCL. As a service group of mother and daughters, our national philanthropy focus is the American Heart Association. Heart disease is such a critical issue for women, and our goal is to create awareness that we hope will lead to saving lives. We are grateful to the city of Roswell for partnering with us to declare Heart Health Month and help us spread this important message within our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Council, I'd love to have a picture with these lovely young ladies.
Them, so keep smiling. Yes. Would you like to?
And I believe Alf has finished his business and is moving on. So if you all would, please come back up.
Seats. Down. Oh, man.
As you can see, Alf is very excited to be here this evening. Alf is only 19 months old, so he still has a little puppy in him, if you can't already tell that. His handler, Officer Hicks, has been with the police department since 2014. He actually started with Columbus PD in 2009 and realized that the grass is much greener here in the city of Roswell. So we stole him away. And Officer Hicks, as you can see, always has a smile on his face, has an incredibly sunny disposition, and was partnered up with Alf, who has an equally sunny disposition. So Alf has been certified through GEMA, and all the training was done and approved through GEMA, and he is an explosives dog. So what he's certified in is specifically in explosives work and detecting bombs and explosive ordinances and things of that nature. He is a single-purpose dog. And he loves to be pet, as we saw over at the Cultural Arts Center. Lots of children got to pet Alf. And as you can see, he's nothing but smiles, just like Officer Hicks.
Well, thank you so much for coming tonight, and I know that council is chomping at the bit to have a picture taken with Alf. So,
Absolutely. it out, making sure it's safe up there. Oh, can you put them in the front? There we go. All right, let's take a few of this.
Good bud. Good bud. You see all the people?
Thank you to Alf, and thank you to our police officers. The next item on the agenda is a proclamation for Georgia Day. Whereas the state of Georgia was founded by General James Edward Oglethorpe, who received a royal charter for establishing a colony in honor of King George II, and led 116 people from England on the HMS Anne, landing near present-day Savannah on February 12th of 1733. And whereas George Walton, Button Gwinnett, and Layman Hall each signed the Declaration of Independence on behalf of Georgia, which became the fourth state to ratify the U.S. Constitution on January 2nd, 1788. And whereas since its founding 283 years ago, Georgia has grown to over 9 million people and progressed from a rural state to a commercial, financial, and a cultural center for the Southeast and the nation. Therefore, I, Lori Henry, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim February 12th as Georgia Day in the City of Roswell and encourage all of our citizens to acknowledge and celebrate our state's history and accomplishments. And do we have some folks here that, thank you, ladies, if you'd come forward. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do and how it relates to Georgia Day?
We are the Martha Stewart Bullock chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. We're ladies who have had our lineal descent proven. We go back to at least one person who fought or provided service during the American Revolution. And one of our things that we love to do the most is to learn history, to preserve history, as well as anything remotely patriotic.
Thank you very much. And would you all consent to have your picture taken with us?
Love to have your
Thank you so much.
taken with you.
A lot of cameras here, so keep smiling. More cameras, so keep smiling.
The next item in the agenda, another feel-good story, just like this department doesn't have enough of those, is the recognition of the City of Roswell water utility for receiving the Georgia Association of Water Professionals Water Distribution System of the Year. This is the Gold Award. Mr. Skalski.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd just like to introduce Mr. Kelly Comstock. He's representing the Georgia Association of Water Professionals this evening, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about this particular award in Chris's string of awards over the last year or so.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Thank you for inviting me here tonight. My name is Kelly Comstock. I'm a board member of the Georgia Association of Water Professionals and the Georgia section of the American Water Works Association. These are not-for-profit associations with membership consisting largely of professionals who implement state and federal water supply, water protection, and water resource laws and regulations. AWWA is a national organization that has over 50,000 members across the country. GAWP is a state-level organization of nearly 4,000 water and wastewater treatment plant operators and managers, municipal and industrial officials, engineers, manufacturers, and others concerned with Georgia's water resources. GAWP is the state's premier professional association for water, wastewater, and related issues. We were founded in 1932 and have started the first license program for water professionals in Georgia. For over 85 years, GAWP has provided the bulk of the certified professional training for water and wastewater operators here in Georgia. Every year, we like to rank drinking water distribution systems and provide awards to recognize systems that have been operated in an outstanding manner. We do this to allow water utilities to improve their performance, safety, and reliability of the systems that they operate through collective knowledge sharing. The review process is a rigorous evaluation of all aspects of how well a system is run. Each system is evaluated by a team of experienced auditors comprised of utility staff, consulting engineers, utility contractors, and other water distribution professionals. The auditors evaluate hundreds of pages of documentation and make many specific areas of the system and inspect it with each individual system that's being looked at. This year, I'm honored to recognize the City of Roswell under Chris Boyd's leadership for receiving the GAWWA Gold Award for Distribution System Excellence by earning a quantitative inspection score of greater than 95 out of a possible 100 points. Of note, this is the fourth consecutive time that the City of Roswell has won this award. Now, I'm going to throw out a challenge, because for systems that receive 5 years of consecutive gold awards, they are bestowed a special platinum award recognition. So Chris has done an outstanding job, and one more year, and you'll be classified as a platinum award. The City of Roswell should be proud of its staff for reaching this impressive level of achievement and being a 2018 recipient of the Gold Award for Water Distribution System Excellence. This is an important accomplishment and speaks volumes about the exceptional commitment to the level of service that the City of Roswell provides their customers. Thank you, and congratulations to Chris and the City of Roswell for this great acknowledgement.
And let's have a picture with our superstar.
Other side, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd, and our Public Works Department. Also, the last item on my mayor's report is the approval to change the time of the Community Development and Transportation Committee meeting on February 27th, 2009. Ms. Wakefield, would you mind coming forward to tell us about the award that you will be receiving down at the Capitol, which is, as a result, we're asking to change this meeting. So normally this meeting is at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I believe the proposal is to switch it to 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Good evening. Yes, the Community Development Department, basically the city of Roswell, is being recognized by the state as a Plan First community. This is our second such award. We received it 3 years ago, reapplied, and received a second designation as a Plan First community, which basically indicates that the city takes this comprehensive plan very serious and takes the necessary steps to implement those plans. I think it's important to note that we're the only city in North Fulton that has that designation. And on Wednesday, the 27th of February, the award will be officially presented at the Capitol, and there will be the award ceremony, and then there will be a photo op with the new governor.
Thank you, Ms. Wakefield.
I'm sorry, and it's at 9 o'clock, so that's why there's a conflict.
Thank you, Ms. Wakefield. Let's give them a hand. This is great. And please mark your calendars for that time change on the 27th. So it'll be at 5 o'clock in the evening as opposed to 8 o'clock in the morning. I wanted to make sure everybody had ample notice on that. I apologize. I have another engagement that I've committed to, so I will not be able to be at the committee meeting that evening. So do I, yes.
So just a clarifying question. You said 5 o'clock, and I believe the proposal discussed was for 5:30.
Oh, okay. So 5:30 on the 27th as opposed to 8 o'clock in the morning. That still didn't work for me. But
yeah.
So do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Palermo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wilsey. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is Administration and Finance Department. Councilmember Marcelo Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. So item number 5, presentation by Atlanta Plate Forward to the Roswell Trolley Company of surplus funds generated from the Gay City Brewing Company, Car Black GMC's Alive in Roswell 2018. It's going to be presented by Chris Ward, our City of Roswell Special Events Manager.
Thank you. Before we begin, I wanted to ask Tom Ladow to please come up. He's the Executive Director of Atlanta Plays It Forward. And before I hand it over to him, I just wanted to take a minute to thank Tom. 3 years ago, Tom, along with the city, took on Alive in Roswell. And during those 3 years, Tom's worked tirelessly to bring 2 new venues to Alive in Roswell, our East Alley and our interactive zone. He's helped secure several sponsorships in amounts of $60,000 and has continued to improve the event to make it our signature event in the city of Roswell. Tom's a man of great integrity, intelligence, and kindness, and on the behalf of the city of Roswell and special events, we'd like to thank you, Tom, for your continued support. And I will introduce Tom. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go grab the check.
Yeah.
Do you want me to announce?
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. You know, the event has just gotten bigger and better. Excuse me, and that's due to a lot of factors. I mean, the city has been wonderful, a wonderful partner, and we've had great and wonderful sponsors and support from the community. So it's been my pleasure to elevate this event to an even better level, and I suggest to you that it's going to keep on getting bigger and better. As you know, the goal of the event is not to make money. The goal of the event is to deliver the highest quality event we can for the money that we were able to raise. And we were fortunate enough to exceed the amount we needed by approximately $800,000. I mean, $8,000, 8,000.00. So we're happy that happened. And I'd like to call on our we've got the council was nice enough to approve how we would spend this extra money. And we've got an allocated use for it. So I'd like to bring up our presenting sponsors, the Carl Black Buick GMC and the Gate City Brewing guys, and also our Trolley nonprofit, if we could have them come forward. There it is, right there. So, as you know, the trolley has been a terrific improvement to our community, and certainly it's been a major component for Alive in Roswell, having free trolley service during the event. And what we can think of is no better use than to offer them some support with this extra money. So that's what we'd like to do now. Hanny, we'd like to present you with this $8,000 check to support all the good things you do with our.
I would like to thank you all for stepping up to the plate and providing this service to the city of Roswell. It really does mean a lot that you all are thinking ahead and being proactive on this, and this is just a small way that we can help. But in case you haven't noticed yet, I don't want to throw you a curveball, but are you ready for a picture?
There we go, Marie. Okay, all right.
The next item on the agenda, Community Development Department, Councilmember Michael Palermo.
Item number 7, approval of rezoning RZ 2018-04604 from REC to DX for a single-family residence located at 64 Maple Street. Ms. Dybel?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is rezoning RZ 2018-04604, Magnolia Construction Group, 64 Maple Street. The applicant's requesting a rezoning from REC to DX, downtown mixed use, for one single-family home. This is the aerial of the property. As you can see, it's on Maple Street. The Mayor and Council authorized closing on the acquisition of the property in July of 2018. So this was property that was land swapped for another parcel on Maple Street. Here is the zoning of the property. Surrounding it is DX. DS, and REC. Prior to the UDC, the property was zoned R4, which was a multifamily residential classification. The city placed the REC zoning on the property in 2014 because the city owned the property. The property has never been used for recreational uses. This is the old zoning map prior to 2014 to show you, the arrow shows you where the R4 is. It's actually pointing to the location of the property, just to give you a background of the history of the zoning. This is the plat of the property showing the location. So the applicant is looking to do one single family home on the proposed property. The Planning Commission recommended approval with one condition, that the owner developer shall dedicate 6.5 feet of right-of-way to achieve a minimum of 16.5 feet of right-of-way along the site frontage as approved by RDOT. The staff has the same condition and the applicant has agreed with this condition. Do you have any questions for staff?
Does council have any questions? Councilmember Palermo.
So, what question, Ms. Dybel, is given our requirements that a zoning is site plan specific, if this council approves this rezoning, then it would be specifically just for single family home. It's not that anything else could be done without permission from mayor and council. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Additional questions from council? Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. So, so again, none other uses could be done in the future?
The downtown mixed use does allow other uses. However, the applicant has requested a single family home. That's what the proposal is for. And if you choose to add it as a condition, you may, since staff didn't place it on there, since that's what they've asked for in their request as a single family home. But if you choose to state one single family home, that is your prerogative.
Okay, and my other question is, can you give us a little bit of history of why are we rezoning a passive park into DX and, you know, from public property to private property? So can you give us a little bit of a background?
A little. I was not involved in the land swap last year. I believe maybe the city attorney might be able to give you a little bit better understanding on that. The property is zoned REC. However, it was only zoned REC in 2014. The city did own the land. It was zoned multifamily for many years until 2014. So prior to that, if the city had chosen to sell the property, just so you know, in the historic district, which is where this was, which is where this is, it could have been used for apartments back prior to 2014. The city placed the REC zoning on it since we own the land. However, it's never been used for recreational. And regarding the land swap, the city attorney might be able to answer more questions for that.
Mr. Davidson.
Thank you. Yes, this was part of the transportation project that this council approved for the land swap. This was one of the parcels that the city gave up to the applicant tonight in exchange for necessary right-of-way for the Oxbow project.
Additional questions for staff? Would the applicant like to come forward and speak, please?
Thank you, Mayor Henry, members of the council. I'm Don Rollator, 1865 Lockaway Drive, Suite 601, Alpharetta. This may be the shortest presentation I've ever made to this august body, and I apologize in advance. Magnolia Construction Group entered into a land swap with the city, and the exchange piece that they would receive is this piece of property. It's 0.27 acres, very small piece. It's intended for residential construction. I think otherwise Ms. Dybel has covered for you exactly what was proposed. We do accept the one staff condition. If we can answer any questions for you, we'd be happy to. Other than that, we will reserve any remaining time for rebuttal and appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for Mr. Rollator? Yes, Councilmember Palermo.
So there's the staff recommendation regarding the transportation item here, but then also curious to hear your thoughts on a condition that the approval is tied to the site plan.
Would you say the second part of that a little louder? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
No problem at all. Just want to hear feedback on your thoughts regarding an additional condition that says this approval is tied to the site plan, just being a single-family home.
I don't know that there's a site plan filed. In this case, the Historic Preservation Commission would make that decision, so I wouldn't want to tie it to a site plan now. That's the very decision we will anticipate them making.
Okay.
This has to go to them.
Sure, absolutely, and I appreciate reminding everyone you'll be going there. Let me rephrase that or adjust it. Having the approval be specifically for a single-family home on this property, having that as an actual condition.
Yes, that's fine.
Additional question from council? Thank you, Mr. Rollator. Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Seeing no one come forward, do we have a motion?
Just gathering my my notes and my wording right here. So given something I've learned from the city attorney and through the 3 years here, it is important that a landowner with the property has an economic use for their property. By no means does this council, for any situation, have an obligation to maximize a profit for a landowner, but there is the requirement for a property owner to have an economic use. And with that, I motion to approve with 2 conditions. The first condition is a staff recommendation as written. The second condition is that with this rezoning, only a single-family home may be built on this property. Does that work for Mr. Davidson from the second condition? Is that, or would you word that differently?
That's fine.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wilsey. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it is Councilmember Grower, Councilmember Tizer, Councilmember Wilsey, Palermo, and Judy in favor. All those opposed? Councilmember Zapata. Thank you. Mr. Palermo, next item.
Item number 8, CU 2018-04685, 928 Canton Street, conditional use for a distillery. Ms. Dybel?
Yes, this is a request from the applicant at 928 Canton Street, Gate City Brewery. The applicant is requesting a conditional use for a distillery. Here's the location of the property. As you can see, it's at Canton Street and Magnolia. The property is zoned DS. Under that zoning, it is a conditional use for a distillery use. Staff has recommended approval, and so has the Planning Commission. There's not much indicated here. There's nothing to be built. Everything is going to, the applicant has everything to be inside the building. So everything is going to stay the same other than the use which would be allowed. Do you have any questions for staff?
Does council have any questions? Thank you, Ms. Dybel. Is the applicant here? Would the applicant like to speak this evening? Please come forward.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. My name is Dan Plevac. I'm an attorney with Taylor File Harper, Lumsden and Hess, 3400 Peachtree Road, Suite 1515, Atlanta, Georgia, 30328. I have the privilege of representing Gate City Brewing. You all may be familiar with them. They also, coincidentally, I guess, just contributed a check tonight that I wasn't aware of. We actually joked with them that maybe we should push that to agenda item 10, but yeah, we didn't. But in any event, I believe Jackie gave a really great overview. As you all may or may not know, alcohol is really regulated by 3 levels. There's the federal level, the state level, and then the local level. On the federal level, there's a concept that's called an alternating premises. And what that means is a brewery is able to alternate its premises within the same building and operate as another use, such as a distillery or a winery. So that is what Gate City is doing at the federal level. At the state level, the Department of Revenue has also followed suit to track what the TTB allows. And the state does allow now for a brewery to also operate as a distillery. So the reason that we're here before you this evening is once Gate City looks to expand their offering of products to get just over 21% under the Unified Development Code, that triggers a distillery use. And even though Gate City can operate as a matter of right currently in this zoning district, once they get into a distillery, the zoning district requires a conditional use. So with that, we're before you here this evening, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Does council have any questions? Thank you. Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Seeing no one come forward, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the conditional use.
Motion by Councilmember Palermo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tizer. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
Item number 9, CU 2018-04687, 115 Oak Street, request for a conditional use for a distillery. Ms. Dybel?
Yes, thank you. Similar to the last item, this is Oak Street Spirits located at 115 Oak Street. The applicant is requesting a distillery use, conditional use for a distillery. This is the location of the property on Oak. The property here is zoned light industrial, so it is a conditional use. Staff and Planning Commission have also recommended approval. Once again, as stated in the last item, the applicant will be using the interior of the building. It'll be the, from what I believe, and I'll let the applicant clarify, I believe it's in the building that is furthest from the road. Actually, there's roads on both sides, so I think it's the back building off of Oak Street. So I'll let the applicant indicate that. But the staff has recommended approval, and so has Planning Commission.
Thank you, Ms. Dybel. Does council have any questions for staff? Thank you very much. Would the applicant like to come forward, please?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Dan Plevac again. So I also have the privilege of representing Oak Street Spirits. This is an applicant that shares ownership with Gate City Brewing. They're going to be operating a distillery, proposing to operate a distillery that will actually be on the northern building. There's a lower level that comprises roughly 1,500 square feet. And it's anticipated that this will be really just kind of a very small micro distillery. They'll be able to manufacture products here. And then, again, at the federal level, there's a concept that allows distilleries to transfer product in bond. So it's possible for Oak Street Spirits to produce some very fine spirits in bulk and then transferred in bond over to Gate City, where it can be aged, rectified, blended, and or bottled. So with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Does council have any questions? Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this going to be open for the public or just business to business?
At this point, it's just anticipated to be business to business. It's a very small space, and it's not really conducive for tours. For the federal application, and I know I keep deferring, but that's kind of always our first step. There's not really a component for a tasting room at this time. So if that was ever entertained, we would have to consider amending the federal application because it's actually illegal to have a tasting room on the premises of a DSP. So we would have to carve out a small space for tasting. It's possible they may do some tours, but at this time, it's not contemplated that it's going to be anything in scale or scope of Gate City Brewing, for example.
Okay, because then my question was toward parking requirements.
Right.
Does it comply with parking requirements in case that you start receiving visitors into the distillery?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Dybel, can you address that, please?
Yes, there is considerate amount of parking in this location, so should they ever do this, they do meet parking requirements. That's been checked by staff.
Thank you. Additional questions from council for the applicant? Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Well, we've got a quiet crowd tonight. Thank you all so much. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the conditional use.
Motion by Councilmember Palermo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Judy. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. The next item on the agenda is Environmental and Public Works Department. Councilmember Matt Judy.
Now for the exciting stuff. Here we go. Item number 10, approval of a text amendment to the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances, Chapter 24, Utilities and Services, to revise the section Conservation Measures Relating to Lawn and Landscape Irrigation. Article 24.5.22, Landscape Irrigation System Requirements. This is the first reading. Mr. Skowski.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This regulation is one that has quite a bit to do with the North Georgia Water Planning District and requirements for large landscapes. So basically, the state of Georgia has been involved in water-related litigation for over 20 years, and one of the things that we are doing is emphasizing conservation quite a bit more, and that's been going on steadily over the last 15 years. This particular ordinance revision is coming as a recommendation from the district to improve the sensing and monitoring and shut-off controls on large landscape irrigation systems. In doing that, we've modified the entire ordinance with input from legal, left as much of the existing information intact, and this table summarizes the primary changes. The main points that I want to bring out are, number one, this applies only to large landscapes over 1 acre, and it does not apply to single-family homes. And with that, I'll entertain any questions that you may have related to the ordinance revisions.
Does council have any questions? Mr. Davidson, would you do the first reading, please?
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend Article 24.5.22, Conservation Measures Relating to Lawn and Landscaping Irrigation of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell. Now therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following amendment. Chapter 24, Utilities and Services, Article 24.5.22, Conservation Measures Relating to Lawn and Landscape Irrigation of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, Georgia, is hereby amended by deleting Section 24.5.22 in its entirety and adding a new Article 24.5.22 to read as follows. The text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this would be the first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Additional comments from council? Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Woolsey.
I did just want to confirm that this is something to comply with the state ordinance, and that this particular ordinance applies only to those within the who are served by the City of Roswell.
Yes, ma'am.
And that Fulton County, those people in Roswell served by Fulton County would fall under a separate ordinance.
That is correct. The ordinance applies throughout the city. However, Fulton County would be the enforcement organization for those served by the Fulton County system.
County, so, okay. All right. Thank you.
Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Seeing no one come forward, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve item number 10.
Motion
Second.
by Councilmember Judy.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Grower. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Skowski. Now we are on to the Transportation Department. Councilmember Sean Grower.
Mayor?
Oh.
I'm here.
I just skipped right over Rec and Parks. I don't know how I could possibly do that. I guess I was so excited about the transportation projects that I just jumped the gun.
So, thank you, Mayor. Director Leatherman and I appreciate the moment here. Item number 11 is approval of a text amendment to Chapter 9 of Historic Preservation. Article 9.1 and city-owned property, Section 9.1.1, property management of the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances regarding the position of historic assets manager, and this is the second reading. Mr. Davidson, I think, is up.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 9, Historic Preservation, Article 9.1, City-Owned Historic Property, Section 9.1.1, Property Management of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following amendment. Chapter 9, Historic Preservation, Article 9.1, City-Owned Historic Property, Section 9.1.1, Property Management, is amended by deleting said section in its entirety and substituting a new Section 9.1.1 to read as follows, text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this is the second reading.
Mr. Leatherman.
Mayor and Council, as this is a second reading, I have no comments formally other than to answer any questions you may have about the second reading of this ordinance.
Does council have any questions? Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Seeing no one come forward, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Tizer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Grower. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Now we'll move on to transportation. Councilmember Grower.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item is item number 12, approval of a pre-approval agreement for use of impact fees in excess of the $333,175 impact fee credit for the residential portion of the Roswell Exchange property for the Sun Valley Phase 3 system improvements in the amount of $638,519.36. Right-of-way acquisition from the adjacent properties for these system improvements from the Transportation Impact Fee Fund and Budget Amendment, BA 230-421-01-01-28-19 in the amount of $638,519.50. We deferred this item at the last meeting pending further information. I think staff gave us a pretty comprehensive review at that meeting. It sounds like we have not received anything further. Given that, I'd like to make a motion to deny this item.
Thank you, Councilmember Grower. I'd like to get the temperature of council. I'll entertain a second.
I would like to second that motion.
Second by Councilmember Judy to deny. Comments, Councilmember Palermo.
Excellent. Sure. I was definitely ready to second if Mr. Judy was not, but I definitely do appreciate that motion and that second. I want to actually speak, just give a little background and a little detail, I think, of what brought us here. So 2 weeks ago when this was on here, basically it was that the developer is required to make some improvements, and they gave the request that they looked at seeing it would cost about $1 million to make those improvements, and asked if the city could pay for it so they wouldn't have to pay for it. And that was something that 2 weeks ago I made very clear I was fully opposed to. There's been no direction, no consensus from this council that there is going to be really that connection between Highway 9 and Howes Road. And so to spend $1 million for an improvement that would just be a roundabout to nowhere and really greatly improve for the developer, I just thought was ludicrous. So 2 weeks ago, I said I would support a denial or a deferral or even a counteroffer that just showed the developer was really going to be responsible for the lion's share of what was going on there. I wish there was still written minutes so everybody could quickly just spend just a few minutes and actually see the exact details of the conversation. Unfortunately, those are no more, and so there's just the ability to go on and see a video where you can actually listen and watch the exact conversation. But I think it would be helpful for everybody to see what got us here in the exact conversation. But I really do want to just call out that there were a lot of There's a lot of people here tonight. There were even more emails that came in, and really your voices really are important and make a difference. So thank you for being engaged and really being a part of this process. Would have loved to have you all been here 2 weeks ago, but so glad you're here tonight. And again, definitely appreciate and support this motion in a second.
Additional comments from council? Yes, Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm so glad that the motion to deny was made. You know, I have here something that I would like our Department of Transportation to take a look on, that there is two other options to connect Alpharetta Highway with House Road. So I would like to put this on a projector, and I would like the Department of Transportation of Roswell to take a closer look and see that there is two other options to connect, and then the even more reasons to deny this motion.
Councilmember Zapata, the item on the agenda this evening is the roundabout, and I understand the connection with the roundabout to Sun Valley Phase 3. However, I'd like to hold the conversation to the roundabout. We can always discuss alternative options at a future date in a work session or committee. I'm more than happy to entertain that.
Yeah, my point is Sun Valley 3 is not sense, doesn't make sense, and is not worth to invest any money. So this I'm saying, I'm glad that the motion was to deny tonight, and so definitely I would like to continue the conversation with the Department of Transportation to open the mind for other options to connect Alpharetta Highway with House Road.
And we can talk about that at a future date. Is there anyone else on council that would like to speak? Okay, I'm going to open this up to the public. I'm not certain, I do not want to speak for council, but it looks to me as though this motion, if I'm counting correctly, will probably pass to deny this. So I would like to say to the public, thank you so much for coming out. I realize you want to have your voices heard. I'm going to open it up, but if you all wouldn't mind keeping in mind that the motion is to deny, and also please stick to the roundabout issue itself. So is there anyone that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, ma'am, please come forward.
My name is Claire Snedeker, 765 Whitehall Way. I'm pleased to hear that further consideration's been given to this item for denial, and I really appreciate the fact that there's a receptivity to hear the voices of the residents on matters of concern, because there was a clear understanding there was a two-step process here, but the first step of putting this $1 million in was concerning in many ways, of investing in that corridor in addition to the house that's already been bought by the city. So it seemed like there was some significant preparation going, and I understand that the budget is already in line for the 3-year period that starts with the $200,000 this year for the traffic studies to be updated. To include House Road on those and not just House and Mansell as previously, as well as the impact studies for the neighborhood and the environmental. So appreciate the fact that that's moving forward and that due diligence will be done. And I would just ask that a public forum be held about this road before any further consideration is given once that data is gathered. That would be very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Well, again, thank you all for coming out this evening. We received numerous emails over the last few days, and while I have not responded to all of them, I do want you to know that they've been read, and we appreciate you all taking the time not only to come out to City Hall, but taking your precious time to send us emails and letting us know what you think. So yes, please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Karen Smith. I live at Hembry Springs Drive. And I would like to submit to you petition signatures for you to read. I don't know where you want me to leave them.
If you would, thank you, Mohammed.
Yes.
Would you mind
Thank
bringing
you.
him forward? Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? Seeing no hands up, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Are we having second thoughts? Is someone coming forward? Thank you.
Ask to deliver these public comments.
If you would please give us your name and address, and then I will have Mohammed bring it forward.
My name is Jim Chappell. I live at 940 Litchfield Place.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming out this evening. Thank you. Okay, one last time. Is there anyone that would like to come forward and speak? Going once, twice. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Councilmember Grower.
Thank you, Mayor. This is item number 13, approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a construction contract with SOL Construction for the sidewalk on Hardscrabble Road from Etris Road to Rucker Road in the amount not to exceed $268,485.85. Mr. Eisenbrack.
Thank you, Councilmember Grower.
Excuse me, if you would all exit chambers quietly so we can get through the rest of the agenda, I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. I'm going to turn this over to our engineering design manager, Mr. Rob Del Ross, to present this item to you tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight's item is to award a construction contract to Soul Construction for the sidewalk on Hardscrabble Road. As soon as the display above board will show you the graphic, this is an extension of the sidewalk currently being constructed along Hardscrabble Road. The project sidewalk ends at Etris. There we go. The construction project sidewalk currently ends at Etris Road here. This sidewalk extends approximately half a mile up to the intersection with Rucker. Soul Construction was the lowest responsible bidder. 10 bids were received. The amount is $268,485.85. Any questions for staff?
Does council have any questions? Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am, please come forward.
Hi, my name is Lauren Fields. I live at 865 Singing Hills Drive. And I have a question about the sidewalk because I watched the webcam earlier today and sidewalks were discussed. So I think I'm just curious, how wide is this sidewalk?
The width of the sidewalk?
Mayor, the sidewalk varies from 5 feet to 8 feet along the length of the project.
Thank
you. That's excellent to start with. That's very good because 6 feet to me is like a minimum you should have for a sidewalk, especially one going a half a mile. So 2 people and a dog could fit on there. 4 feet, you can't fit but 1 person. So it's just good to know that it's wide enough. And just thinking, since we got this water approval, if it were absorbent, like the water from the rainwater could go into the ground, that would be much better. So you did pavers. And secondly, asphalt being softer than concrete. I mean, make it soft because older people may have knee issues and appreciate a softer surface to walk on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Mr. Del Ross, I'm sure that you've considered many of those factors, whether it's pervious pavers or asphalt versus concrete, and can you enlighten us as to what the thought process behind that is?
As you drive around Metro Atlanta, I'm sure you've seen municipalities around us that do asphalt trails and asphalt sidewalks. Currently, that's not our standard. Currently, we do concrete outside the historic district, and we do brick pavers inside the historic district.
Thank you, Mr. Del Ross. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, Councilmember Palermo.
Could you just help me understand, so you said it's our standard, can you help me understand why it's our standard and what the pros and cons are of each?
What I've heard through the years, believe it or not, asphalt is probably cheaper. It's an aesthetic issue and it's a maintenance issue, so concrete will hold up longer than asphalt. I've heard from stakeholders, other municipalities around us, that traditionally they go to more of an asphalt surface for a long section when cost is an issue.
Additional questions from council? Yes, Councilmember Zapata.
Yes. Can you tell us for the record if this section is going to connect two other already existing sections of sidewalks?
This is filling a gap. So the gap is created, take one step back. There is an existing very long gap along Hardscrabble Road. Once the Green Loop project is complete, that creates the gap on the red line you see on your display from Etris to Rucker. When this gap is complete, you would be able to walk from the high school along Hardscrabble up to Rucker, and then currently heading east on Rucker to State Route 140, and eventually when our T-Splosh is finished, all the way through Rucker into Alpharetta.
Great. Thank you so much for the explanation.
Additional questions from council? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Grower. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ooh, dual seconds. So we've got Councilmember Tizer and Councilmember Wilsey. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously.
Next item, item number 14, approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract with Pond and Company for the bicycle and pedestrian master plan in an amount not to exceed $200,000. Mr. Asenbrack.
Thank you, Councilmember Grower. I'm going to turn this item over to our Transportation Planning Manager, Mr. Dave Cox, for his presentation to you tonight.
Thank you, Steve. Well, it's a very exciting night in Roswell. Last summer, you guys approved an amount in our budget for a bike and ped master plan. This will ultimately take a deeper dive into our transportation assets and help us become a walk-friendly community when we apply after the plan is concluded. It also strengthen our position as a bicycle-friendly community, as well as improving our policies and make several recommendations on our best practices. The plan will last about 12 months, and with approval tonight, we would like to award to Pond and Company. During the procurement process, we interviewed 3 firms upon receiving 5 submittals. And it was through a competitive process that staff reviewed and ranked accordingly based on the criteria.
Does council have any questions? Is there anyone? Oh, yes, Councilmember Wilsey.
Yes, thank you. We're really excited about getting this bike and pedestrian plan started and can't wait to see what the recommendations are and putting them into place. But I was just curious a little bit if you could describe the actual process. I mean, is there, I guess, public...
For the bike ped plan itself or the procurement process?
Well, for the plan itself, like what process will the group be going through over the next 12 months?
Well, first, one of the main things is to do a data collection process. We have a lot of inventory on file of all our assets. Then we're going to be doing a robust public involvement campaign. Okay. So we'll be doing not only public meetings in multiple parts of town, we'll be doing street surveys down by the river, on Canton Street during a live. So that's one of our key things, is to gain public input on what the public desires and think our plan should be, not only for the short term, but for long term. We've talked extensively about sidewalk gaps and bicycle facilities and connections to our park. So these are all valuable things we're going to be taking a deeper dive on. Right. And the consultant team, Pond and Company, will be helping us guide that process based not only on public input, but their expertise along with staff expertise to basically make a solid plan for the city of Roswell that we can hang our hat on for the next decade or so.
Good, great, thank you. I know the community's all excited about it, so can't wait to get started.
Thank you.
And this will be yet another item that we are looking for public input on. We're going to need a lot of public input this next year. And I would encourage you all not only to give your thoughts, but encourage your neighbors to get involved as well. We've got a strategic plan. We've got the bike and ped master plan. We've also got the historic district master plan. So we've got a lot going on, and we're looking for the public's involvement on all of those topics. So please stay engaged. Are there additional questions from council? Comments? Is there anyone in the public? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward.
Good evening. I'm Janet Russell. I live in Roswell. First, before we address this, I want to acknowledge our fire department. We had a fire on the town square this weekend. 2 businesses were destroyed. The firemen were there, lickety-split. They contained the fire, and I really like to acknowledge them because number 1 firehouse is overworked. They're busy all the time, and when I was going home, there were 2 or 3 fire engines, firemen, EMTs, policemen. They blocked Sloan Street, Highway 9, Highway 120, Mimosa, Park Square, everything. So I always like to acknowledge that we have the best firemen at number 1. Well, they're all good, but I like to feed the ones at number 1. So I just wanted to let you know that because none of you live near the square, I don't believe, and you would maybe be unaware that 2 businesses are now closed because of the fire. Thank goodness the building was a cinder block building. Otherwise, the entire block would have gone. And there's an alley between the 2, between the cinder block building and the next building, which is an art studio. So several of us have already reached out to some of the business owner, the young lady with the flower shop. She already moved from Webb Street over there, and it's Valentine's Day week, one of her busiest, and we offered to help her if we could. So I just thought you, as the leaders of this city, might want to know what a great fire department you have and acknowledge them. Give them a raise. You give them photo ops, you give them lunches, you give them, you know,
if we could
things.
move on to the topic.
That's
Thank
fine.
you.
Well, I don't think we can ever acknowledge our firemen too much because they can't pay me enough to run into a burning building.
I agree.
I don't know about any of you. Okay, so now, curiously, did I miss something, Mayor? Did you call for an approval of the consent agenda?
Yes, I did.
Okay, because I didn't hear that, and there were a couple of things I had questions on. Secondly, I see that we're going to give $200,000 to Pond and Company, and I'm wondering if anybody in our Department of Transportation ever worked for Pond and Company. Do we know? Just curious. Also, you kind of piggybacked onto what I'm going to ask. We've got the Historic District Master Plan, and now we're going to have this pedestrian plan. I would hope that they would work in tandem and not separate meetings so that none of the information, we have all this information, plans here, plans here. This city is always like a postage stamp, you know. Nothing ever connects. I would like to see an intersection of the Historic District Master Plan with the pedestrian master plan. It does no good to have 2 plans that don't talk to each other. All these public meetings and all this public input, which most of it has been disregarded over the last 40 years. And here we are again spending great money, and I'm all about pedestrian, you know that. However, I remember when we had 2 plans to improve Highway 9 in front of the cemetery and Oak Street, and the 2 sidewalks didn't connect at the corner because we had 2 different consulting companies doing the 2 projects until I brought it up and said, hello, they don't meet. Well, that's kind of a metaphor for this. I would hope that these meet, not just like you guys do when you have little bits and pieces all over the city hall and people are supposed to look at pictures and decide what they like and all that. And then in another room, the other projects are going on at the same time. We need to have a real conversation and make a complete plan that actually intersects. And you need to really listen to the people that live in this town who live here and in the sections where they live. We're really tired of being ignored, really tired. I love that you're putting in a sidewalk all the way to Etris Road so you can walk like 2 miles. I'd just like a sidewalk to the square. It's so simple. The other side, you know, with all that construction of Canopy, we still have no sidewalk. There's construction and debris and broken this and broken that, and nothing's changed since I walked with Mr. Del Ross, nothing. It's impossible on both sides. So I would very much hope that this historic district master plan that I'm excited about actually articulates with the bike and pedestrian master plan, because without them, you're just throwing money down the drain. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Seeing no one come forward, do I have a motion? Excuse me, Councilmember Zapata, you have a comment?
Yes. I would like to know if we can answer the first question from the resident first. And then second, for my surprise, I don't see here attached the bids, the different, I believe it were 3 bids. And I don't see here on the documents attached the bids. And I think, I believe, this is my strong belief in, for government transparency and good business, city business, to attach all the bids that have been received and analyze them, at least in a micro level for recommendation. So I think that, again, I always insist to attach to the, to the public record the bids. It's a good city business practice. So I don't see this here, and then I heard a question from the resident that I would like to be answered.
Let me just address a couple of the questions. I do have the list here, if you'd like to review them, along with the scores. I might have to defer to our Department of Finance if he's here on their typical procurement process. If they post these, we usually don't make these public as far as scoring, but I'll be glad to share them with this body if you prefer. And as far as the selection committee, that was one of the questions from the citizen. We had 5 firms submit packages. The selection committee was comprised of myself, the transportation planning manager, one of our engineers, also from the transportation department, and also the director of recreation and parks over on the selection committee, as well as a 4th they're not voting, it's the non-ranking member from the finance department, the procurement office. So those are the people who made the selections based on the submittals.
Was this exactly the question of Ms. Russell, or did she ask if anybody on the committee worked for ponds? I don't know, maybe if the question can be repeated, or...
The answer to that question is no. Nobody on the selection committee worked for pond.
Excuse me. Quiet, please. I understood Ms. Russell's question is asking if anyone in the transportation department has worked for Pond. I can answer that and say yes. Pond is a major player in this region, and I'm certain that we probably have several folks that have worked at Pond at one point or another.
And I know Steve Eisenbrag as the Director of Transportation. He worked for Pond and Company 11 plus years ago.
Thank you.
Okay.
Additional questions?
And then about attaching as a good business practice the bids for a public record.
So for a project like this one, it's a master plan effort, so there is no bids. There was a ranking criteria to select a company that all members of the selection committee thought were the most qualified to actually do the job. So there is no bids involved here. One company was selected to do the job.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Additional questions from council? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve item number 14.
Motion by Councilmember Grower. Do I have a second? Second by Councilmember Wilsey. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
Next item is item number 15, approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a design contract with Gresham Smith for a mini roundabout at North Coleman Road and Lake Crest Road in an amount not to exceed $90,000. Mr. Asenbrack.
Thank you, Councilmember Grower. I am going to again turn this over to our engineering design manager, Mr. Rob Del Ross, to present this item to you tonight.
Good evening. This is a very, very exciting day for the Transportation Department. We have been trying to find a optimal location for a mini roundabout for several years now. The item I'm bringing you forward tonight is signing a design contract with Gresham Smith for a mini roundabout at the location of North Coleman Road and Lake Crest Road. The concept you see on your displays is a concept of what the project might look like. The key element that I'm about to show you is an incident that is causing some of the investigation by staff and the interest from residents in Land O'Lakes. Their sign that was located in city right-of-way was struck by a vehicle July 25th, 2018. Unfortunately, staff was not able to give them a permit to reconstruct it on site because the sign was located in the public right-of-way. We see the mini roundabout as a great opportunity to provide a safety improvement and a speed reduction measure on North Coleman Road, along with providing the residents a location, if they choose, to construct a new foam monument sign in the splitter island of the project or on private property if they choose. Here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Yes, Councilmember Tizer.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Del Ross, have you received commentary from the neighborhood? I can share with you that I've received several communications from people who are not just in favor of it, but have been actively in favor of it and looking for something like this for quite a while. So I've received several, and maybe you could comment on the people whose yards are affected.
We have received, first off, we had a public meeting back at the end of last year. We had widespread support at the public meeting. We did have a couple of people that were concerned. Those residences are primarily further south on North Coleman and not directly at the project. I will say that the community of Land O'Lakes, from what we've heard, is in support of the project. The immediately adjacent property owners here and here are very supportive of the project.
Thank you. Additional questions from council? There's one thing, Mr. Davidson, I would appreciate if you would opine on, because we had this conversation earlier today. I know that when a drunk driver or a driver hits city property, we do file a claim against the insurance company. We had a resident ask if the city was going to be doing that in this case, and could you please tell us why this is different than city property?
The sign that was destroyed in this was not city property. It was in the right-of-way, but we wouldn't file anything against that, the car insurance, to replace a sign that's not ours. The HOA is free to try and get restitution from the insurance company if they want, but that's not something the city would do.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward and speak? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
My name is Doug Fernandez. I live at 1315 Land O'Lakes Drive. I've been a resident of the Land O'Lakes subdivision and past HOA president for 3 terms. The pictures that you saw of our entryway are not as described in paragraph 3 as large non-breakaway. Non-breakaway maybe, they're brick. What I would like to suggest to the Department of Transportation is save some of the taxpayers' money. We're talking about $90,000 for the design study. After a drunk driver, also carrying drugs in the car, crashed into our sign Been there since the 60s, undisturbed. And now we're responsible because it's, quote, in the right-of-way. I'd much rather see 2 stop signs. One coming down from North Coleman south before Thompson, and one going north on North Coleman before Lakecrest, which is the entryway. The other thing is take the $90,000 and put it up at North Coleman and Woodstock Road, where there is more traffic, mothers trying to pick their kids up at North Fulton, trying to make a left turn onto Woodstock. It's a zoo. That's where the money should go. It's a simple thing. We've got Lake Charles Drive, has stop signs. That's how they slow traffic. Same thing could be done here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would like to point out to the general public that we do have a transportation improvement at North Coleman and Woodstock Road that we are addressing now. It's a context-sensitive light design, which I'm excited about. So it's minimal intrusion, and we do recognize that as a safety factor there. So that is being taken care of. Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward additionally? Seeing no one else come forward, do I have a motion? Yeah, Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. So, yeah, the last comment is aligned with what I've been asking the Department of Transportation. Which other options are to calm the traffic? If this is the real issue to calm traffic, which other options are out there to do it? The answer, I believe, have been none in the past. I don't know if today they have others, thinking again outside the box. I know that we are desperate to try some little runabout around the city. I understand that. I'm a supportive of runabouts where they make sense. And so the question is, these couple of things here, I guess, is one, how to calm the traffic. Second, about the sign of the entrance. So I don't want to mix them, it's two separate issues here. So, which again, I will ask the question, which other options, thinking creative, outside the box, and with open mind, our Department of Transportation, we have here to calm the traffic instead of the runabout. That I would like also to know the estimated cost, because we're talking about $90,000 today, but how much will be the estimated cost total for this runabout, and if this, again, is the best use of the taxpayers' money?
First question, it's a nomenclature vocabulary issue. In our world, this is an intersection improvement. This is not a traffic calming measure. This is an intersection improvement that does provide very effective speed reduction and very effective traffic calming per the city policy. If the residents on North Coleman wanted to propose traffic calming measures, there is a process to do that. There is a petition process, and there is a cost share for residents to advance a traffic calming measure of their choice. We are not looking for a cost share. We are advocating for 100% city cost for the construction of this project because it is a good location for a mini roundabout that, from staff's point of view, we think will be very successful and will result in other areas of our city asking for one of them too. Regarding the monument sign, we are looking forward over the next 3 months to working with the residences on Lakecrest. The downside is they actually don't have a mobilized HOA, but we do have several people who have already reached out to us who will be working with and deciding whether they want to advance a monument sign in our splitter island or a replacement for their signs that were involved in the accident on private property. The construction cost of this project, we are hoping to keep under $200,000. The funding source of that will be the same funding source we are proposing for the design.
Okay, so it's not for traffic calming, it's for intersection improvement. That's correct, if I understood correctly?
That's correct.
Okay, so my question is, how many of these intersections do we have in the city of Roswell that we need to bring a small roundabout? Because if we do it here, and if we have many more, we have to think about everywhere else and then see if this is the location that makes the most sense to start with. Do we have this data to how many of these kind of intersections we have out there that we need to do a roundabout?
Transportation is advocating for this location primarily because we have residences who are looking for a solution to their wrecked monument sign. We think there's benefits to the city and there's benefits to the residential area for this proposal.
Yeah, again, I will suggest not to mix a sign entrance with a little roundabout. I mean, I know that you keep coming the mix between the sign there that need to be fixed and maybe relocated more inside. I understand this part, but what they have to do with the roundabout, I mean, we're mixing two different things here. So, so then, in terms of intersection improvement, again, how many places we need to invest money to make an intersection improvement? This is on the top of the list in the city of Roswell? Or
the Transportation Department recommends this site for our first mini roundabout, primarily due to the concern of the residents wanting to replace their sign in conjunction with the large number of complaints we've received over the years for speeding on North Coleman.
Okay, then do you have any petition from the neighborhoods or any signed petition from the neighborhood about the need of the intersection improvement?
We do not have a signed petition to my knowledge. I will share with you the results from our public meeting, which if you need more information on that, the city traffic engineer sitting to my right attended and will be able to answer those questions for you. As you can see, the meeting was held on December 13th. We received 17 comments total. Yes, 10, no, 7. I will tell you that up until the final deadline, that spread was much more in favor of yes. Approximately 3 or 4 of the no votes were residences that were further south away from the project on North Coleman that were genuinely confused, like a comment we just received earlier. They thought that the question was, are we doing this signal or are we doing this mini roundabout? And our answer was, we're advancing both projects completely separate. They voted no under the assumption that if they voted yes here, they wouldn't get the signal at Woodstock.
Additional questions from council? Yes, Councilmember Palermo.
So help me understand, what is the timing for the intersection at Woodstock and North Coleman? Because I do see that as the bigger priority.
City Traffic Engineer Scott Bruner is going to answer that for me.
Thank you, Councilmember Palermo. They're trying to track pretty much in parallel, so we're going to start the actual design right now for the signal. And probably we're doing the design in-house. Probably 4 months, and as long as we don't encounter any significant utility projects, we'll put it out to bid. I mean, we could have it out to bid as early as the summer, and then construction could start after that.
Thank you.
Additional comments? Yes, Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you, Mayor. So, yeah, if you can leave, please. Actually, yeah, I was about to make a comment on that, please. So, analyzing this information here, we see that only 17 people attended the meeting. Then, so then on question number 2, maybe you can make it really bigger, please. Perfect, thank you. So question number 2, if you're supportive of this mini roundabout proposal, which of the following potential benefit do you believe the mini roundabout may provide? And I see, 10% speed reduction, traffic calming. And you insist that there is not other better option to achieve the speed reduction and traffic calming. And then if we go to question number 4, please. Question number 4 said, if you are not supportive, what perceptions of mini roundabout or other project issues give you a concern regarding? Prefer intersection to remain as is. So I will assume probably that 7 people out of 17, 41% prefer to leave the intersection as is. So, and again, the sample we're talking about is sample here of only 17 people. I don't know how representative is this sample we are taking here to make a decision tonight. From our perspective, 17 people is not a representative samples, and maybe some council members live in the area and they will prefer to have, I don't know, but so only 17 people. So I really don't see enough data here to support an initial $90,000 investment of taxpayers' money, and without much more analysis and data, and really, come with options, because I'm sure there is other options to calm the traffic and then leave it as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Zapata. Councilmember Tizer.
Do any council members live in this neighborhood?
I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that. I don't.
By show of hands. No.
Excuse me, Councilmember Tizer. Please don't address this body. Is there anyone? Yes, Councilmember Grower.
This is an innovative project. Objectively, a mini roundabout is going to be safer than a stop sign when a drunk driver is driving through the intersection, period. This is something that is a benefit to safety, and it's something the city should try, in my opinion. I will absolutely be voting in favor of this tonight.
Thank you, Councilmember Grower. Additional comments from council? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Grower. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tizer and Wilsey. You two are in concert tonight. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it is Grower, Tizer, Wilsey, Palermo, and Judy in favor. All those opposed? Councilmember Zapata. Next, we will turn this over to our city administrator.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't have anything tonight.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I don't have anything tonight.
Thank you. How about our city attorney?
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, excuse me. Can I interrupt you? Just those of you in the public that aren't aware, we have now added another line item to our agenda, which is the city administrator's report. At that time, the city administrator would normally come forward and give a report on something that you all are dying to hear about, but he did not have anything this evening, so we will hear from our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item I have is the second reading of a text amendment to the alcohol beverage licensing section. It would be an ordinance. With your approval, I'll go ahead and read it.
Please.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 3, Alcohol Beverages of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, Georgia. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following amendment. Chapter 3, Alcoholic Beverages, Article 3.2, Licensing, Section 3.2.10, Eligibility of License, Subsection C of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell, Georgia, is hereby amended by deleting Subsection C in its entirety and substituting, therefore, a new subsection C to read as follows. Text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this would be the second reading. Basically, what this does is it takes away It brings us into compliance with state law, and it allows for someone that is lawfully in the city that has been here for a year to obtain an alcohol license.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Does council have any questions? Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak? Seeing no one come forward, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Judy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Grower. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item I have is approval of a settlement agreement. The city's been in negotiations for a long time with Martin's Landing Foundation over Lakes and Ponds disagreement, possible claims, and other matters. This would be a settlement of the matter. It also gives the city the easements necessary under the old Lakes and Ponds ordinance for any emergency action should it become necessary. It allows Lake Martin to be used as part of our stormwater system. We recommend approval.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Palermo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Judy. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Davidson.
And the final item I have is a recommendation for closure to discuss personnel, litigation, and real estate.
Motion to move to closure.
Motion for closure by Councilmember Grower. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Wilsey. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Thank you.